everybody, and welcome back to Arma 3 mission making in 15 minutes or less. And today we're going to be talking about how to export your the mission that you spent all that time making into a playable file that you can enjoy and unleash on the world. We're going to go through the various things you're going to change in the attributes menu, and then look at some of the settings you're going to change as well. We're going to do a very quick overview because this process can take a little while to talk about, perhaps not so much to do, just depending on all of the different things that you can do with it. So it's not going to be exhaustive, but I will gloss over the various points and dive into detail where we need to. With that said, let's get straight into it. So the first thing you're going to do, having completed your mission, is save it. And then the next thing you're going to do is go into the attributes menu and general. Now, you don't have to do all of these, but the ones that will pop up, we're going to do some changes to. So you'll put in here who's done it. You'll go into an overview. I like to add an image. Make sure you've got the decent file path or the correct file path for it, and a little bit of text. And then I basically cut and paste that across all three screens for the loading, for the overview, etc. You can go into a lot of detail in either the overview. There is an element for briefing. So once you get into the map, obviously you can see all those areas. So you can put a lot of detail in there. I don't tend to do that. My group does it differently. But that option is available to you, which you can then access from the in-game map. What else do we need to look at? So states, I don't tend to mess with this unless there's something specific. So if I don't want, for example, I want to do like an escape and evasion exercise, and I don't want them to be able to have access to GPS and things like that, then you can turn those sort of things off in there. You can force things like the advanced flight model should you wish to. That is available to you. I don't know what the unlock is, and there's a tooltip on here that tells you what it is, but I never use it, so we're not going to talk about that. And again, this is stuff, so within it, if you want to call an expression at the start, you can do that within here as well. But again, I don't use it. What I do use is make sure that the faction settings are correctly. So at the moment, green 4 are allied to blue 4 and are hostile to op 4. And you just click on the coloured icon to change that allegiance setting. This is really useful for when you're trying to do things like insurgencies and the like, or indeed if you just want to happen to use independent forces as your op 4, then you can just simply change that and it works really nicely. I always uncheck binarize the scenario file. It can cause problems later on if you're trying to unpack a PBO to edit it, and there's also some compatibility issues with some mods. Don't ask me which ones. Certainly none of the ones in the 15 minutes or less series. But I have had it in the past and couldn't figure out why, and then just unchecking the binarizer scenario file made it work. If you do want to do things like hide tactical pings, then there is that capability here. There are other means of achieving the same effect using ACE, but if you want them in, that's there. Things that I don't use but are available to you. So you can do airdrops and ambient flybys and briefing, not briefing, I didn't want that one. I wanted establishing shot. So these are kind of things you can have going on in the background that kind of look cool, but don't really do much. And then with the establishing shot, it's just when you're loading in, rather than loading in on the load screen, it will put you on this kind of, as soon as you're in, you'll watch this UAV feed, if you will, of the area. You're going to put the center position here. So these coordinates you can get from coordinate space down in the bottom left. If you remember here on your UI, so let's say we wanted to do it on FOB Axios. If I put my cursor over Laval here, for example, in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see I've got an X, Y, and Z coordinate. All I'll do is put that into that information into that field there, and you'll create the airdrop, establishing shot, ambient flyby, whatever you want to do. Intro text, I don't tend to put it in there, but I have for this series. I've no idea why, I'm just playing around with it. But you can put this introductory text on there to advertise your mission making wares, if you will, and get a bit of information to the guys who are going to play your mission. I don't mess around mission ending, but you can do stuff in there. We're not doing single player. Sound ones, again, I don't mess around with this, and I wouldn't recommend doing so. People are going to change the sounds based on their client-side settings, so let them do that. If you change it here, you're going to mess with their Juju when they load in, and they can't hear anything, and they're having to tweak it. That's that one. Environment. So you should have decided what kind of environment you want for your mission. Remember, we went through this in the UI overview. You can change all of the different settings in here. change all the weather forecast, give you a foggy start, for example, or not. You can have rain. You can manually override rain and make sure there is rain. But if you want rain, you need to have clouds. And again, if you want lightning, you need to have rain and clouds. They're all available for you to tweak and adjust how you want it. The main thing to kind of take away from the environment, if we come back out of the editor, if you've made a mission that you want to play at night, people tend to make it during the day, and I would recommend that so you can see better. But you do need to have a look at it, what it looks at night. And you need to set it to night. So if we go to nighttime here, for example, that's our set at night. And if we come away from all the lit up regions, let's go to the mountain regions. You can see here the moon state is full, and so visibility is actually pretty good. If you want to change that, then if you go to the date, you see you've got the big moon there. You can find dark of the moon, which is this one here. Press OK here, and now you can see it's pitch black. So that is in there. That's one of those things that seem to sneak under the radar. I love it that they've done it, and whenever I do a night up, I try to make moon state full because I think it looks cooler, but that might be just me. There's that one. That's environment. Multiplayer, respawn is covered in, or sorry, multiplayer is kind of covered in the respawn tutorial, probably in enough detail for what for that which you need to know, but there are a couple of things that we'll cover in this one too. First one is give yourself a mission summary. I always disable AI slots because they seem to be it's just a waste of frames. If you've got a bunch of playable characters, but unless you're doing that, unless you're creating like a 5-man op and you need the AI to support you, then obviously enable the AI. But I don't. They just, because mine are multiplayer missions to play with a bunch of guys. AI is just killing my frames. I don't need them. Respawn, you're going to decide if you want to do respawn on custom position, respawn on position of death, or indeed disable it. I don't mess around with those. If you're going to respawn on custom position, make sure you've set up your respawn module accordingly. See the respawn tutorial for the details on that. But what you do want to make sure is that you've got a slight delay on respawn. It's a bit disorientating if you respawn and you're kind of like, whoa, I've just respawned and I'm somewhere random. I just got shot in the face. If you've got a 3-second delay, it just allows you to get your head right, to know that you've died and that you've respawned accordingly. Check to whether or not you want to have allow manual respawn. I generally have this allowed because bugs happen in Arma and respawn is required. Save loadout. I tend to leave this unchecked, and the reason that I do that is that if you've got into mission and you've made adjustments to your loadout, you don't have to go and make those adjustments every single time. So I change that in the save loadout piece. What else have we got? Don't mess around with tasks. Revive goes hand in hand with respawn really, in my mind. But revive essentially is allowing to use the medical system to get your guys back up. I change the bleed out duration to 5 minutes. I change incapacitation mode to advanced, and the reason I do that is it means that if you get shot in the face, you'll die straight away, which is a bit more realistic than the basic where you will always go incapacitated first. So it throws another dynamic in there. But you can mess with these settings. Tooltips will give you an indication of what they do, and they're there for you. I don't go with dynamic group and dynamic AI settings. To me, again, a waste of time and effort, and doesn't deliver what I want it to deliver. But it is there if you want to go and have a look. Moving swiftly on. Performance. So dynamic settings, I do not enable dynamic. I always uncheck enable dynamic simulation. The reason that I do that is dynamic simulation doesn't work well for my group. If you're doing a ground-based group, and do you know what, it's not then much of an issue. You can have your view distance set out to match your dynamic simulation to match your view distance in game. And so if someone gets shot in the head and the AI will collapse, whereas we're in an air assault group, so when a helicopter shoots somebody from like 3,000 meters away and the dynamic simulation sets 2,000 meters, that character stays upright, and so creates just more confusion and detracts from realism. And there are other ways to save frames, such as the GBus system. So I don't tend to use the dynamic simulation. I do use garbage collection though, and I tend to set it to around about 10 minutes or so for both. I know it's can detract again a little bit from the realism and everything else. However, at the same time, it's just saving frames, and nothing detracts from immersion and game playing experience than having frames drop to like 5 frames per second. But you've got loads of guys around you that are dead. You know, I'd rather have the guys that are dead gone and have 30 frames plus. So that's what I change in the performance. The next thing you're going to go to is snuggle over to settings, and you're going to go into your not your preferences. We've already done that. You're going to go into game options and set this up to make sure your game options, in particular difficulty, is as you want it. I tend to turn the AI skill up and their precision down because they're a little bit lethal for my liking, but the AI skill up maximizes their use of cover and things like that, and they're a bit more tactical. So I go for 80-20. You could even go higher. The default setting, I think, is a bit lower. And then you're tweaking what you want to tweak on here. So whether or not you want to allow tactical pings, whether you want to hide all of this different information from situational awareness to be more real sim more than mil sim, or where does your fun factor lie? And that's the important part. The whole idea is it's supposed to be fun. So if it's immersion is coming at the cost of fun, then it perhaps isn't worth detracting from your fun just to make it a little bit more immersive. But entirely up to you. It's in here. There are some presets for recruit, regular, and veteran. As I say, I always go for custom and work how I want to work it. What else we're going to do? The next one is add-on options. So there are a number of ways of doing this, but if you go into, if you look at the mod tutorial, you'll obviously have, well, you should hopefully have a whole bunch of add-ons that you're going to go and change and tweak to make it work and run the way that you work. I would thoroughly recommend going through this list, looking at each of these things, and then once you're happy with it, then you can do magic stuff. So if we go to, I don't know, let's go to night vision. Where's it gone? No. Ace night vision. So let's say you don't like the effects of night vision. I put it like a really low. You can probably get away with one actually. But let's say that this is how you want your night vision to look. You don't want it to be completely detracted and ruining that kind of fun just to have increased immersion of being a bit more realistic with the night vision. But you do want it to have like a little bit so people know that they are playing at night. Absolutely fine, not a problem at all. So make the adjustments, press save, and then go save as new mission or whatever else. You can see some random stuff going on here from God knows what else. But save. You then want to go to export, copy to clipboard, and then we'll jump onto a text editor and save it on there. Okay, so you can see here we're on a text editor, and just press Control and V on the text editor, and I've now got all of these settings here. That's all of my settings come across, and you can see if I go to this folder and my mission stuff folder, so I have a folder with all the random mission stuff that I use, and in there I've got my mission settings and my server settings. If I go back into game, so let's say that I've not done any changes at all, I've just come in, this is the first time I've opened the add-on options. I go into import, and then I copy and paste the text from the server setting text file into this text file here. And by pasting it in, that will now implement all of the different settings within each of all the different settings within each category of my add-ons. Save it, press OK, come out, press OK. So you do that, and you're going to need to do that for both your mission settings and your server settings, because they are different, and be aware of what you're overwriting in terms of server and mission. I tend to make everything as per the server and then overwrite clients and missions on things that I'm like, this is how it will look. So for example, night vision, I have that specified, and for my missions I like suppress, and we'll have that specified for overwriting clients and missions if it's a mission that I'm running. However, my group doesn't do that, and so I don't have it as overwrite clients. I allow people, if they want to run that mechanic to increase their immersion and experience, then they can. That's essentially what you're looking to get out of it. So if you want them, that this is what they're going to look at, overwrite missions, overwrite clients. If not, then you can move away. Having done all of that, everything is good. You go to scenario, crazy, right? Export to multiplayer, and I'll just show you briefly. So if you look here, we've got our follow the thread. So it's your Steam apps, common, Arma 3, and multiplayer missions. Yeah, and you can see this is empty. I've emptied the folder out so you can see that it's empty. So now when I go to scenario, export to multiplayer, you see it's exported there. And this PBO, which is a mission file type, has appeared in here. Mission making demo, 50 minutes or less. Guys, that is it. That is Arma 3 mission making in 15 minutes or less. Any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. As ever, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.